Right, so we got this deck lid here, and this is an old deck lid I've had for many years, and I've had this deck lid. God, this might be. Let's look at it real quick. This might actually be the deck lid from my first car. It's the right color. I think it is, actually. This is from my first Bug, my 62. And you can see I was testing some orange on this thing many years ago, and guess what color that was? That was the color that I originally painted my car. So kind of funny, but yeah, it is from the original car because the deck lid was hanging on that car when I got it. Funny enough, crazy. I can't believe I still have this. So I've had this deck lid since I was about 16 or 17. It's about time I use it, I suppose. So anyway, it's got this issue here. We got a broken hinge. Many years ago, this thing would be trash. This would be no good. I don't know why I kept it this long, but I did. And this hinge carrier is broken off because obviously the hinges were rusted out back in the old days. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and graft this metal from a late model deck lid that was pretty much junk. This was a Mexican made deck lid, so it's already pretty thin, and the rust is really bad on both sides, so there's not much left. Very thin metal already, and I mean, it is usable, but you know, it's from like a 75 Bug or something like that. Not really a desirable one to keep, you know, so I figure it's a good donor for the early car. So this is actually going to go on this Bug right here, which the guy told me it's called Beryl Green, but I looked up Beryl Green. It's absolutely not Beryl Green. It is mango. So pretty neat color. Yeah, maybe when it's polished up, it might be looking all right. So we'll just try and stay original on this car, kind of clean it up. So I just figured I'd do a little preliminary repairs on it, and it's a good subject for a video. And I ended up picking up this W, or this part here. Let me show you. Got the right one for the rear. H apron, couple of good fenders, original fenders. They have the tab ends on the stuff like that. So the ones that are on the car are actually original too, so I could actually fix them. I was looking at them pretty close, and they're definitely fixable fenders. So we're gonna do some grafting metal. So a lot of guys would choose to actually butt weld a piece in here to try and make it look original, but again, like, the strength of it might not be enough. So I'm gonna look at the option of cutting out this entire section, which is basically the same. There's one little extra bend right here, which isn't gonna really be noticeable, and then maybe cut it out to right out here past the areas, and then overlay it, hammer it down and overlay it in there, so I have a nice strong piece, because this is actually a weak area of the car. And then I'm going to overlay it, cut down to here, and maybe cut over to here, and then overlay it that way so that I have more to weld on, and try and make it a little bit stronger at the same time. So we'll see how that turns out. Talk to you in the next portion. Alright, so I've cut out my donor over here out of this deck lid, and I made it a bigger piece than what I'm going to put in. Now, if you were going to butt weld this in, what you would do now is go ahead and center it where you want it to go, and then you would just go ahead and trace here and trace around it, and then go ahead and butt weld it in, you know, do it that way. But I'm looking at this strength wise, and I'm going, okay, it's probably going to be a little bit stronger if I go ahead and overlap it, because this is going to have a lot of spring tension here. So rather than try and butt weld this in and go all the way around and thin my metal down a little bit, I'm looking at it. When you do this sort of thing, you need to think about what's going to be affected if this is a 1/16 of an inch out of place. If it's a 1/16 of an inch out of place, is it going to make any difference? Because that's about what you're looking at in difference. And on this deck lid spring, I don't think it's going to make any difference. So on the hinges, of course, you need to get those really spot on. But the spring itself shouldn't make any difference. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and punch holes along here with my hole punch. And this side I'm going to go ahead and clean up and weld along here. I'll do spot welds all the way along, about 16 or about 1/4 inch on center. And on here I'll probably put an extra weld somewhere in the middle where they didn't have one. You see this little notch here? There would be normally no weld there, but I'm going to go ahead and strengthen it up a little bit. We're going to lose some aesthetics, and I'm going to go ahead and spot weld the spring carrier to the deck lid itself. Okay, so got this thing in place, got my holes popped in here. We've cleaned it up a little bit with some wire brush and with the wire wheel. And I've cleaned up all this. Is actually bare metal. So, and this thing seems to fit. Once it gets all done, you pretty much aren't going to tell that it was there. Well, we went ahead and welded around. Had to get a little mountainy right here because I'm having trouble with the heat. So I got it dialed in. And then along the edges, it's a different thickness in metal, and it's a lot thinner than the 70s ones. That's probably why the earlier ones cracked. So this should take care of the problem, putting in the later model hinge carrier or the spring carrier. And all I got to do now is just this edge around here, spot weld it in and grind everything down. Doesn't look that pretty, but it will when I'm done. So I got all the welding on all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and grind everything down and get it ready for some primer and some seam sealer. I need to really clean this thing, but I'm just going to do a quick primer on these areas so that I'm actually going to fill this edge here because it's a little bit gap there, and that's the only edge you're really going to see when you open the deck lid. So it's not a real big deal. When it's all done, it'll look just like it was never there. Alright, so we're going to talk about what I did here, and then I'll tell you why that I did it and stuff like that. Where the strength is needed usually is what happens is they rip on the top edge, because it's when you shut your deck lid and it's pulling away from it is when it actually pulls away on this edge, and this edge it usually pushes on it. So having a lot of spot welds on this side isn't going to be as advantageous as having this side really well on there, because I have several of them that they used to break off, like right here, and then it would break off right here and right here. So so what I did is I welded it here, and I ended up with a little bit of a gap, but I'm going to go ahead and fill that in, and we'll take a look at that after I'm done. I'm going to throw some primer on, some sealing primer sealer on there, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the seam sealer on and show you guys what it looks like after that. Alright, so I got this all primed up, and I decided I'm just going to go ahead and put a little filler in there and just call it good right there. And that's it for the grafted piece in for your spring. I think you can imagine that when I get done putting a little bit of filler on here, you're not going to see it, and especially on this edge. It's going to fill in that edge. I'm just going to sand it down a little bit smooth. I'll do that after the deck lid's nice and clean. So I just decided to do that. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next video, and good luck with your project. Talk to you next one. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe.